Now, you mentioned luck. How much of your success would you attribute to luck versus hard work versus skill?
Well, great pick up there, actually. I always love to tell the story about Larry Bird when it comes to luck. There was a game, one of the great basketball players of all time, right? There was a game where he actually got knocked to the floor, and the ball rolled to him, and he shot it and scored from a sitting position. He was literally on the floor.
Yeah.
So, and as only Larry Bird could do, right? So in the post-game interview, the reporter asked me, said, "Hey, Larry, is that the luckiest shot you've ever made?" And I loved his answer. He said, I find the more I practice, the luckier I get.
Huh.
So I am a believer in luck, but I believe that your hard work makes your luck. And so, there's no luck in around the writing that Adrian Gostick brings to our partnership. I mean, that is a skill that he has honed over years and years. And I'm delighted that you enjoyed, the presentation that you saw that I gave a few months ago. Well, we've honed those presentations down over the last, 6-7 years to the point where, we pretty much know second to second what's going to happen, and we work at it, and we bring Scott Christopher and his talent in to say, okay, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we brought in more technology? What if we made it more interactive? What if we told the people before the presentation and gave them the general results, and then gave them the results from the people in the room? Wouldn't that be cool?
Mm-hmm.
And so as we work harder and harder, I think we get luckier and luckier. It leads to more interviews. It leads to better stories. It leads to higher levels in organizations. So, I am a believer in luck, but I think you're only lucky after you literally worked your guts out.
Yeah.
And I got the 1,000,000-mile tag from Continental on my back, to prove it.
Now, what fulfills you? Inside work, outside work?
Well, the next green fountain pen is always very
Well, it's funny you mentioned the fountain pens again, because as you talked about it, it made me curious to understand how that even started.
Actually, it was one of my customers. They were buying a program from me. He was telling me about his son that he put in private school, and he was becoming a very good writer. And he had an English teacher that said, if you really want to write thoughtfully, don't do it on your word processor. That's what they called them way back when, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, buy a fountain pen. It'll slow you down. It'll make you more thoughtful. And ever since he said that to me, I've had this fascination. Now, this goes way back for me. My grandfather on my mother's side was a wonderful country lawyer in Canada, in southern Alberta. But he was also part of the first big grain negotiations trade between Canada and China and Russia. And he actually had gifted to me 2 fountain pens that were given to him by Leonid Brezhnev in the Soviet Union. And unfortunately, they were destroyed in that small fire that my parents had in their home. Oh. And so I often thought about these fountain pens. You see the signings of great passages of law and so on, and they always come with the flourish, and they give the signees a pen. You'll see when President Obama signs things into law,
sure,
he'll sign it with 5 or 6 different pens and give them to the various lawmakers.
Right.
And so I've always loved the symbolism of that. You saw A Beautiful Mind. Mm-hmm. You remember that when he finally wins the award, the other professors come to a table and put a pen in front of him. And they're not cheap pens. They're nice pens. So that was kind of a tradition that always fascinated me. And so I've got a lot of hobbies, but that's what I think kind of ties to my work. But I'll tell you what really is fulfilling for me is I have an incredible wife, Heidi, and 4 exceptional children. And the work I do has allowed us to take some really interesting trips. I've taken my family with me to Malaysia, to Singapore, and to Europe, and South Africa, and China, and we've really taken some really, really extraordinary trips together. I'm a big believer that travel is a great educator. Meet different people, learn a language, see a different culture. So my biggest satisfaction comes from the fact that we've been able to live interesting lives. When my wife and I got married, we sort of made a pact that we would travel. We didn't know how much money we would make, but that we would lead interesting lives. And there's nothing more interesting than traveling the world and teaching people to be grateful and to say thankful, to say thank you, and see how these different cultures react. react, from Asia to South Africa to North America to South America. It's really been a wonderful gift.
And did you pick that up during your mission? The love of travel?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, my parents traveled as a kid, and it was funny. My parents would travel, and they take these great trips. And my dad would always bring me back toy soldiers from the different places he'd been, which were subsequently misplaced during a move. I lost a lot of these great things. And I do the same thing for my son Garrett. I bring him back grenadiers from England every time I go to London. I come back with some toy soldiers for him. But yeah, they taught me to appreciate different cultures. In Canada is very much not like the U.S. in the fact that it's not a melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
When people come to America, they want to be American. But when you go to Canada, you actually, in Edmonton, if you're Ukrainian, there were Ukrainian cultural centers. In Vancouver, there's a big Chinatown. There's a little Italy. There's a Greek town. And all those different cultures, Vancouver being a very international city, I always enjoyed different cultures and always thought, wouldn't it be fun to actually go there? And now with my job and what I get to do, we've actually been able to do it. And so it's fun. I'm walking around my office right now. As you can see, we've got like little pewter mugs from Kuala Lumpur and coins from China. Ostrich eggs from Cape Town, South Africa. All these little trinkets. But yeah, these wonderful. I don't know if you've seen these blue glass eyes that they have in Turkey that ward off the evil eye. These little charms, and it just delights me to have these little tokens and memories. And more than that, and this is what my wife and I really enjoy, is we literally now have friends in all these places that we stay in touch with on Facebook and email and letters. And we've gone back to some of these places 2 or 3 times. And it's always fun to not only see the culture again, but to renew these great friendships. It's been spectacular.
Now, I'm curious what it is you took out of that experience and kind of brought with you from then on.
Well, I think when whether it's the Peace Corps or my daughter, I'm ridiculously proud of her. Cassandra is now down in Ecuador. She's taking 3 months to go work at some orphanages down there, actually run by an old of mine. I think, when you learn to serve people, the great thing about my mission was we literally got up every day and thought, okay, how can I make the world a little better place today? I'd worked hard before my mission to pay all my expenses. You're not paid as a missionary. So you get up every day and you knock on doors and you bring the gospel to people. And, obviously not everybody says, hey, sign me up, But you can maybe spend a little time with them, lighten their load a little bit, bring them, a good word, a kind gesture. And I think when you learn to serve people, that's something, that sense of altruism lays a foundation for service. And I've always thought that a life of service is a life well spent. So, we've tried to kind of translate that into our work somewhat, where we say, look, be good to each other. It'll make your mama proud. But not only that, we then dug into all the data and said, and when you treat each other with respect, and when you appreciate each other, and you encourage each other, it actually is very good for your business. It's good for your customers. It's good for retention. It actually accelerates your business results. It accelerates, your profits. And isn't that good to know? It's kind of like my dad always taught me. He says, Chet, don't listen to the naysayers out there. He said, good guys always finish first. And I believe that. And it comes out in whether you're working in the Peace Corps, or you're donating time to a soup kitchen, or you're teaching Sunday school at your church, or you're coaching your Little League baseball team. All those little acts of service make for better communities, better